Okay, you guys are all going to need to follow me on this intro segment, all right? You're going to need to stay close or you might get lost, seriously. This is a Vivi video. I need to say that right at the beginning. You did not misread the title. This is a video about Vivi and her rejoining the Straw Hat crew in the upcoming final saga, or I guess the final saga that we're in right now. I guess, yeah, we are in the final saga, right? Her rejoining the Straw Hat crew, what her power-ups might be, how the dynamic might go, what she's going to do in the future after the events of the Reverie, all right? That is 100% what this video is about. I have Vivi's figurine over here. I'm bathed in cyan blue lights, so yeah, it's a Vivi video. However, the intro segment of this video is going to be something completely different to the untrained eye. Completely different from Vivi, completely separate. The last thing you would expect me to discuss when discussing Vivi, all right? But it is going to tie back together. I have a way to tie it back together. Do you trust me, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Okay, so I just need to reiterate that point right at the beginning. All right. Here is the intro segment to the video. All right, so this is the Magna Defender from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, also known as the single coolest character in all of Power Rangers, okay? He's really awesome. He has this cool black suit of armor. In the original Japanese, Gingaman was Lost Galaxy in Japanese. He was just called the Black Knight. He wields a sword that transforms into a shotgun because Power Rangers. His Zord is a giant metal bull that fires a laser beam that makes him bigger. Then he climbs inside of the bowl as like a suit of armor and just beats the crap out of enemy monsters. And later on he dies and becomes a ghost, and then he passes down his sword like it's freaking Excalibur to the next Magna Defender. The name Magna Defender is so cool, right? Okay, so that's that character. All right, now what does this have to do with Vivi, you might be saying? All right, well, here's the thing. Magna Defender, despite how absolutely badass he is, it's kind of contentious in the Power Rangers community if he's considered a Power Ranger. And boom! Right then and there, I think most of you got it. That's right. The point of this video and how it all ties back together is, will Vivi become the Magna Defender? And the answer is, of course, yes. Vivi's gonna get an awesome suit of armor, she's gonna get a shotgun sword, and she's gonna just pave the way to Laugh Tale. She's gonna lead the charge, ladies and gentlemen. All right. No, of course, the question is of course, is Vivi a Straw Hat? All right, just like, is the Magna Defender a Power Ranger? Is Vivi a Straw Hat? And by the way, the answer that I have to both of these questions is yes! The Magna Defender is a Power Ranger. Yes, Vivi is a Straw Hat, all right? So the idea is, Vivi travels with the Straw Hats. You know, they meet up at Whiskey Peak. They have all these adventures together, Little Garden, Drum Island, and then they reach Alabasta. And then Alabasta is, of course, under the control of Crocodile at the time, and so Vivi joins up with the Straw Hats. Straw Hats help Vivi out. They oust Crocodile. They win. And at the end of that arc, they ask Vivi to come with them. They arrange a whole thing where it's like, we're going to be on the Eastern Bay. We're going to leave on the morning of this day. And if you want to come with us, Vivi, you meet us there and we'll take you out to sea and we will go and continue our adventure together and you will be a member of our crew. Okay, so right then and there, if Vivi wanted to, like, leave with the Straw Hats, if she wanted to jump on the Going Merry and sail off, the Straw Hats would have loved that. They would have partied the night away, and they would have continued on their adventures with Vivi being their permanent crew member, okay? The only thing that happened was Vivi decided to stay. That was her decision, all right? She decided to stay in her country because they just had this massive issue with this rebellion, and they thought that the king was this cruel, like, malevolent force that was, like, hoarding all of the rain, and that was found out to all be a lie. That was set up by Crocodile. You know, Crocodile was really the one in charge of everything, and then Mr. 2 was, you know, portraying the king and everything to make the people think that he was, like, really cruel. And so Vivi realized that, like, okay, I need to fix a lot of this country's wounds. A lot of the trust of the common people has been lost here in Alabasta. You know, now that my father, Cobra, is back in power and I have finally returned to the nation, I need to be here to nurse those wounds. I need to be here for my people. And so she decided to stay, okay, because that's where she felt she belonged, okay. But does that just automatically make her not a Straw Hat anymore? Let me throw you another hypothetical scenario. Let's say back at Wano for whatever reason. Let's say Zoro decided to stay at Wano. Let's say Zoro fell in love with Hiyori. Hiyori fell in love with Zoro, and then over the course of the entire arc, Hiyori just he's like, I love you, Zoro, and Zoro's like, you know what? I love you too, Hiyori. And they just decided, Zoro's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna stay here in Wano, guys. I mean, Hiyori, we're gonna get married, we're gonna have a happy family. Okay, whatever. Would that automatically make Zoro not a Straw Hat anymore? He's like, well, Zoro, you're not on the ship anymore, and you're not traveling with us, therefore you are no longer a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Get out of here, you know what I mean? You're deciding to stay. No, I feel like if that were to have happened, that completely insane version of events that never would have happened, but if that were to have happened, I feel like Luffy's response to that would be like, okay, Zoro, you want to stay here with Hiyori? Fine, but anytime you want to join back up with us, you can do that. And that was the same arrangement that they gave to Vivi. Now, you might also say that was the same arrangement that Luffy actually gave to Yamato and Momonosuke. I think Kinemon as well. Wasn't Kinemon part of that as well? I don't know. But as the Straw Hats were leaving Wano, they were like, hey, Yamato, Momo, at least with those two. I think Kinemon might have. But it was just like, hey, you guys want to ever come out to sea and be a pirate? Find us, let me know, and then yes, there will be a spot on my crew for you, okay? So I guess in theory, you could also say with that at least, okay, Yamato, they just met at Wano. Like, during the events of Onigashima, they met Yamato. Yamato never really traveled with the Straw Hats before that point, okay? But as the situation with Momonosuke definitely did for a good while, from Punk Hazard to Dressrosa, and then Dressrosa to Zoe, and then half of the Straw Hats split, and then they went to, you know, Wano from there. So, you know, I guess by that logic, you could say Momonosuke is also a Straw Hat, to which a lot of people would, I think, would be a lot more like, okay, no, we're not going that far with it, you know. But the thing with Vivi, though, was there was a lot more gravitas to the departure, to the separation between Vivi and the rest of the Straw Hats there. Okay, that was a powerful moment in the One Piece series, to the point where that is some people's favorite moment in the One Piece series, where the Straw Hats are sailing away from Alabasta, Vivi's on the shore with the Den Mushi, she's simultaneously addressing her nation while doing a farewell to the Straw Hats, which is very pragmatic, okay? For a princess and a politician, Vivi's like, okay, I'm really busy today. I'm going to do my farewell message and address the nation at the same time. All right? So Vivi's there, and she's crying, and she's saying to her friends, without actually saying to her friends, that she's going to miss them, and she has to stay in the town, and she has to stay in Alabarna, in the capital city, and all that. And so the Straw Hats are sailing away. And they can't really say anything to her because, you know, they don't want, like, the whole thing to be like, oh, the Princess of Alabasta is in allegiance with the Straw Hat Pirates. So all they can do is raise up their arms with their X's that they drew on there because to represent, like, okay, not just, you know, to identify each other because of Mr. Two's Mane Mane no Mi abilities, but also it represents their friendship. It's a mark they all made with each other, you know, at the same time. Okay, they all have one. And so they all raise up their arms, and then Vivi and Karu raise up their arms, or Karu raises up his wing or whatever, and they're like, we are now friends forever and, you know, always, and stuff like that. So there was always, I felt like, to me, there was always this feeling of Vivi is a Straw Hat. Vivi was a Straw Hat. Now, even in the data books, and I think in the Vivre card, it does mention she is a Straw Hat. Now, the thing is, Oda does not actually sit down and write out all the Vivre cards, so even if it appears in a Vivre card or a data book, for a lot of fans, that's, like, not good enough because it's not directly from Oda. Like, I don't think there's ever been a situation where Oda has sat down in an SBS and actually written out the words verbatim, Vivi was always a Straw Hat, still is a Straw Hat. Like, that would kind of settle the argument, but, you know, so I always thought she was, though. I always thought she was. Like, she's a Straw Hat. Like, at any given moment, if Vivi ever wanted to join back up with the Straw Hats, if she picked up a Den Mushi and called the Straw Hats and been like, hey, guys, I want to rejoin the crew. I want to get back on the Mary and sail around. He's like, well, we don't have the Mary anymore. Sad story. But we have this really cool Sunflower Lion ship that you could ride around on. And Vivi's like, that sounds awesome. Let's do that. Let's meet up. You know, it's like, okay. Something like that was always on the table for Vivi. She just opted opted to stay in Alabasta because that was her, you know, that was where she needed to be, okay? But now things have changed, and it opens the way for, like, this makes so much sense in the story. From Oda's perspective, from the foreshadowing that was established here, you know, a lot of people were like, oh man, are there going to be any more Straw Hats? Because we're winding down now. We're entering this final saga of One Piece, right? And it's like, okay, well, Yamato didn't join, you know, Momonosuke didn't join or anything like that. There was the theory for a while there that before Momo was turned into an adult by Shinobu with her abilities, there was a theory out there that, like, Momonosuke and Otama are going to join the Straw Hats as, like, apprentice pirates, kind of like how Shanks and Buggy were apprentices on Roger's crew. There was a theory there, and then everyone was like, oh, Yamato's going to join. And then, of course, you know, I was like, oh, well, Carrot maybe? And it's like, no, not Carrot. It's like, all right. So there's a lot of theories on, like, who's going to be another Straw Hat. Is there even going to be a next Straw Hat? You know, you had the 10 members when Luffy set out from Fuchsia. He's like, 10 members. That's about as much as I need. And so the reason, by the way, the 10 number that Luffy threw out was never ironclad to me was, like, I feel like Luffy does a lot of stuff just based off of, like, in the moment, right? And so I feel like, let's say somebody else wants to join the crew and they would be number 11, you know, or rather the 11th member that Luffy asks, because technically, yeah, there are, well, no, there's 10 members solid right now. See, that's the other thing. Like, was Luffy counting himself? Because right now there are 10 members on the crew, including Luffy, but Luffy didn't, you know, he's the one that created the crew. He didn't ask himself to join. He was like, looks at himself in the mirror before he leaves, like, Luffy, do you want to join my crew? Okay, Luffy. And then he's like, all right, let's leave. And so then that's not how it went, right? So there's 10 right now, but did Luffy mean 10 members total or 10 plus himself? So 11, all right? So that's kind of the way you can look at it there. But let's say, it doesn't even matter. Let's say there were 11 members right now. Like, let's say Yamato did join, so there's 11 members total right now. Let's say somebody else wanted to join and, like, they fit the theme of the Straw Hats perfectly, and Luffy, like, loved them or whatever. Like, oh man, this person's awesome. Like, let's say it's a robot. Let's say one of the Vegapunks want to join the Straw Hats, and Luffy's like, oh my god, you're a robot. That's awesome. You know, would Luffy really be like, well, I would love for you to join my crew. I really would. But I kind of had this number in mind of, like, 10 people plus myself, and we've already hit that number, so you can't join now. I'm sorry. I'd really like you to. We just don't have an opening at this organization right now. And then that person would be like, oh, like, maybe Pythagoras wanted to join, or Edison, you know, just like, oh, I wanted to join the Straw Hats. It's like, sorry, there's just not an opening right now, you know. We have your number. If anything opens up, we'll call you. You know, like, that's how it goes, right? No, I feel like Luffy, that's a general number he had in his head. Like, yeah, like 10 members. Okay, that's cool. But, like, if he runs into somebody else and it all works out, it's just like, hey, I want you to join my crew. I don't care about, like, oh, you're the 12th member, 13th member. Who cares? You know? So that's the way I've always viewed that, right? So right now, though, we do have 10 members total, meaning there's 9 people that Luffy asked to join. So there could be one additional member. And the perfect person to fit this role has been obvious. It's been obvious since Alabasta, and that's Vivi, right? It's already established at this point. Vivi already has a dynamic with the Straw Hats, and that's really important, like, thematically, because, like, we're entering this final part. We have Egghead and, like, maybe a couple arcs left, and then you're going to Laugh Tale, right? So it's like, if we introduce a brand new character right now in the story that then joins the Straw Hats, we're not going to really have a lot of time to get to know their dynamic. I mean, like, the Straw Hats really honestly spend, like, disappointingly a few moments in the story actually, like, interacting on the Sunny, like, getting to know one another and just having, like, a back and forth. Like, I really wish there was more of that in the manga, if there was any criticism that I had. This is added on a lot of times in filler in the anime, and there's, like, side comics of One Piece, like One Piece Party and stuff like that kind of tackle that. But I wish there was a little bit more of that in the real story, but that's my point. There's not a lot of that in the One Piece story already. So if you introduce a brand new character and then joins the Straw Hats, and it's like, okay, we're going to get to know our new crew member. Oh, there's Laugh Tale. All right, no time for that. We got to get to the One Piece, you know? But if you could skirt around all of that by just having Vivi back again, right? Because the Straw Hats already know her. They've already interacted with her. They're already friends. Yeah, you would have some Straw Hats, like, for example, Frankie and Brooke and Jinbei, that would know nothing about Vivi other than just what the Straw Hats have told them, all off screen, of course. But yeah, actually, there was a really good filler episode once when, right after Brooke joined, I think, they did a filler where Brooke was, like, getting to know the crew, and there was a logbook. Like, the Straw Hats, I think Nami keeps a logbook, or maybe it was Robin, one of the two, kept a diary or a journal of the Straw Hats' journeys. And so they were showing that to Brooke, and they were being like, hey, this is a log of everything we've done up until now. So the idea is, like, when Frankie joined, when Brooke joined, when Jinbei joined, and it's like, hey, if you want to get up to date on everything we've done up until now, here's a book that explains everything from, like, the East Blue. It's like, oh, you destroyed Don Krieg's fleet. That was cool. Oh, you wiped out Arlong. Oh, okay. And, you know, like, Brooke and Frankie could, like, read through and know everything that was going on prior to them joining, right? So I like to think that was canon, even though that was a filler episode. The Straw Hats keep some kind of log. At least Robin writes this shit down, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's that. Robin would actually know Vivi, because Vivi would know her as Miss All Sunday, so maybe that dynamic might be a little bit weird. You know, maybe Robin would be like, hey, I'm sorry about that time I broke Pell's back, but apparently he was strong enough to withstand a nuke, so no harm, no foul, right? And then Vivi's like, all right, well, you know, Luffy trusts you and everything, and you've helped him out, so all right, I guess we'll just all water under the bridge, I guess. And you were, you know, working against Crocodile at the end. Like, you actually did not, like, because Cobra was present during that when Robin did not reveal the location of Pluton to Crocodile. It was written there on the poneglyph, but, you know, she didn't say anything. And so Cobra would have relayed that to Vivi. He's like, oh yeah, Robin, Miss All Sunday, she actually turned on Crocodile at the end there. She was actually betraying him. And then maybe Vivi was like, all right, maybe she isn't all bad whatsoever. But that would be interesting, though, to see their dynamic. And then Frankie, Brooke, and Jinbei could get to know Vivi and everything like that. So it's kind of like a little bit of a dynamic. I would like to see how they interact again after it's been so long now since they've seen her. But most of the groundwork has already been laid here, all right? We already know about Vivi, so we can just like, all right, Vivi is back. She is officially a member of the Straw Hat crew. Nobody can deny this now. She's here, and she is on her own little quest to try to figure out what happened to her dad, of course. Like, why did he die? How did he die? A whole thing about Im-sama and the Gorosei, and, you know, whatever answers lie there, they're going to be at, like, Laugh Tale or with the One Piece. Like, this is all going to connect back to Laugh Tale in some way, all right? So right now, Vivi and Wapol are traveling in Morgans' flying tea kettle, which is the World Economic Times, like, home base, like their editing room or whatever. So Wapol's with her. And so I don't know how you're going to get the whole Wapol dynamic in here. Maybe Wapol will stay around with Morgans. And so, you know, coming up in the story, we could have a moment where Morgans approaches Egghead, especially with this giant event that's supposed to occur at Egghead Island, like an event that will shock the world. What will it be? I mean, there's going to be a massive battle, but beyond that, I don't know what this is going to be. But you can have a situation where Morgans arrives at Egghead after the big event or while the big event is still going on, so he can, like, see it in real time to report on it. And then Vivi could just be like, holy crap, those are the Straw Hats. That's the Straw Hats ship. I'm sure she has never actually seen the Sunny, but I'm sure she knows they have the Sunny now. Actually, Frankie's wanted poster is the Thousand Sunny. So it'd be so funny if Vivi sees the Thousand Sunny and is just like, oh, that's Cyborg Frankie that the Straw Hats ride around on for some reason. Okay, let's go. Like, at least she'll know, and she'll see the Jolly Roger, of course. So she'll know immediately those are the Straw Hats, right? So she'll be like, all right, thanks, Morgans, for the ride. Wapol, screw you, but thanks for helping me get out of Marijois. And then she'll jump ship, and then she'll, like, land on the deck of the Sunny and be like, I'm back, everybody. And then everyone's like, Vivi! And it's like, this is crazy. And then they'll all hug, you know, group hug. And then she'll explain everything, and then I'm sure Luffy, I would love to see an actual moment in the manga that where Luffy is like, maybe not a double page spread, but maybe like at least a full page where Luffy is just kind of like, you know, welcome back to the crew, Vivi. You were always one of us. You were always welcome here. And then he's like, you know, she, like he's like laughing and stuff. And then Vivi's like crying and she's like, I missed you guys so much. And then they hug. And then it's like, all right, now we're going to go into the final arcs, the final saga of the story with the full roster of the Straw Hat crew. Princess Vivi, all sailing together. Karu is still missing. We don't know what happened with Karu. Karu was at Reverie, And now he's just like Vivi left with Wapol. Karu was not with her. And then we also saw at Morgan's place, Karu was not in the background. So maybe, I mean, you could still fit Karu in there somehow. Like maybe Karu saw Vivi jump off the red line or escape with. No, that wouldn't have worked because they went off to the ship of the Aegis Kingdom, like the Greek kingdom they were going to head out with, and Karu was not with them. So Karu is not with Vivi right now. So that's another quest for Vivi, on top of figuring out the mystery of the world government and uncovering the secret of her ancestor, Lily, and everything. She also needs to find her duck. She has to find her duck companion, okay? And also, Vivi would be able to explain everything that was going on at, like, Reverie. Like, not everything, because she wasn't present for, like, everything that happened with Sabo and Cobra. But she would be able to explain a bunch of things to the Straw Hats that was not released in the papers. Okay, and so she could bring them up to speed on all that, and it's like, whoa, okay, this is insane. It might even change the Straw Hats directory. I don't know. Like, it's like, oh, maybe instead of going to Laughtail, we should go here and do this. And just, like, I don't know how that would go. But Vivi rejoining the crew at this point sounds the most likely, and I think makes the most sense. Like, let's just go with it. And all long-term fans of One Piece, we know Vivi, we love Vivi, so let's, like, just have more Vivi. There you go. Okay. Now, the other question here to address, and I've even addressed this before in other videos. I even did a video on, like, what if Vivi stayed on the crew. I made that a couple years back, I think like 4 or 5 years ago. Like, she kept up with her training while she was a princess, just like how nobles will practice, like, fencing or something like that. Like, I'm sure Vivi kept up with using her peacock slashers, which is her main weapon. She learned at Baroque Works. Maybe her and Karu's teamwork improved and everything like that. She was working on tactics. But, like, she doesn't have that much time in the day, because she's a princess and she has princess duties. And she was not the kind of... Vivi would have not have become a royal member of, like, the Alabasta court or, like, a Tenryubito where she just sits around all day and just like, ha ha ha, ara ara ara, bring me cake. No, she would have been out there. She would have been out into the various towns of Alabasta. Like, if Vivi heard a story of, like, there's this poor desert town in the middle of, in between, Nanohana and Alubarna, and it's really bad off right now, and it's like the people are suffering, and there's a plague that went through, Vivi would be the person that would go there and would want to, like, it's like, it'll be okay. We'll make sure everything's okay for you here. And it's like, that's the kind of person Vivi is, right? So she was really busy making sure Alabasta could be brought up to the great heights it was at before Crocodile kind of took over and ruined everything, right? So she probably kept up with her battle abilities. I can even imagine a couple of times maybe Vivi was out with the Royal Guard, and maybe she runs into like a bandit or two, and like a bandits are like, oh, we're gonna kill you and take you for ransom, Princess Vivi. And like, Pell and Shaka maybe would have been with her too, and so they would have fought the bandits. But I would have seen like Vivi's like, oh, you're not, she pulls out her peacock slashers and just like, slices one of their arms and just, and just like, she can fight, okay? But I don't think, she would have trained so much to the level of like the Straw Hats did for 2 years. I don't think Vivi has armament hockey or conquerors or anything like that. If anything, I could see her gaining better observation, kind of in a similar vein to Otohime, who Otohime was the queen of Fishman Island of the Ryugu Kingdom, and her observation hockey was perfect for that position because it was more high-spec to, like, emotions. Like, she was an empath, essentially. So maybe not on the same level, like, that Vivi would get, but, like, maybe something like she would have observation to better understand the people in her nation and understand, like, what they're, like, oh, they're suffering over here. I need to be there to help them. Kind of something like that, okay? But nothing crazy powerful, all right? And so this is where, at this point, we dust off an oldie but a goodie when it comes to One Piece theories, okay? This is a theory that's been around, well, ever since the end of Punk Hazard. I made a video about this, like, this was a long time ago. This was, like, early 2017 when I just really started doing One Piece chapter reviews. So this is, like, over 6 years ago. But it's the old time-tested theory of what happened to Monet's Yuki Yuki no Mi. Because there's not a lot of death in One Piece. I mean, there's been more death. Like, if you do, like, a line graph, there's definitely been more death in One Piece in the last couple of years than there's ever been, beforehand. But, like, not a lot of death usually in One Piece. And, not only that, but a Logia dying is a big deal. Although, Ace died and he was a Logia, so you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. Like, Monet had the power of a Logia. She had the power of the Yuki Yuki no Mi, the Snow Fruit, and then she died. You know, her heart got stabbed by Caesar. Caesar, I believe, thought it was either Smoker's heart or Law's heart, one of the two, and he stabbed it. Unbeknownst to him, it was actually Monet's heart. So she died. She straight up died, okay? And so that means her fruit left and got reincarnated. And this was also just so happened to be, Punk Hazard, the arc where we saw Devil Fruit reincarnation happening for the first time in the story in real time. We saw this happen. When Smiley, the user of the axolotl fruit, Caesar's pet, the amorphous blob of goo that was given a devil fruit, dies, explodes because of Caesar's experiment. Dick move, by the way, Caesar, you know, mistreating his pets like that. But anyway, just the fruit literally reincarnates into an apple we see in the sled in real time. And then it transforms. And there's the axolotl zone. Then it got immediately covered by the Shinokune, the fog cloud that, petrified it. And then it also probably got covered in snow and ice. So I would assume the axolotl fruit's not going to be discovered for any time, soon. It's out there buried in the tundras of Punk Hazard. But that's not the point. The point was not like, what's going to happen to the axolotl zone? That's not the point. The point was Oda showcased Devil Fruit reincarnation. And then at the end of that arc, a Devil Fruit user dies again. So Punk Hazard actually has a really high mortality rate for Devil Fruit users. It might actually have the highest mortality rate for Devil Fruit users. I guess it's tied with Marineford because Ace and Whitebeard died at Marineford. They both have Devil Fruit abilities. And then in Punk Hazard, you have Smiley and Monet both dying that have Devil Fruit abilities. Because not a lot of characters die in One Piece. Like at Wano, we had Izo and Ashura Doji, but they both did not have Devil Fruit powers. Orochi died, so he had a Devil Fruit ability. I don't know if they're ever going to address what happened to his. Did any other Devil Fruit user die at Wano? Yasu didn't have a Devil Fruit. Well, no, okay. Yasu technically ate a Smile, so I guess if you include Smiles, whole new paradigm with that, right? But my point is that, okay, Oda shows this, and then Monet dies. So what happened to the Yuki Yuki Nomi? Well, if the fruit would reincarnate into the nearest fruit that's around it, like we saw with the apple and Smiley, well, the nearest fruits, because they were in the middle of a giant frozen wasteland. Not a lot of fruits were around. So that would mean probably the nearest fruits would be Nami's Mikan trees on the Sunny, because the Sunny was parked there. So Monet dies, fruit reincarnates in one of Nami's Mikan trees, and, Nami has a lot of those trees. She has like 3 big orange trees, or groves, on the Sunny. And there's a lot of fruits on these that are growing. So, honestly, the amount of time that took place from the end of Punk Hazard to now in the story is not really as long as you think. I mean, for us, it's been like 10 years. But for the Straw Hats, it's only been like a couple months. It's been like, what, like 2 months or something, really? You have like a month for all of the stuff at Wano. And then you could include, I guess, another month for, like, going to Dressrosa. Like, the events of Dressrosa, I think, all took place in one day, which is insane to think that, it was never night at Dressrosa. I think they get to Dressrosa in the morning, and then everything from Greenbit to the Coliseum to the Birdcage to the final attack, all of that takes place in a single day. And then there's the post where they, like, recover and stuff, so that takes, like, a couple of nights. But, like, all the main events of Dressrosa, one day. And then they sail to Zoe, and they do Zoe, and then Whole Cake, and then Wano is, like, a month for, setting everything up for the Fire Festival. So the idea that Monet's fruit reincarnated, and it's on the Sunny, and it's just been there for, like, 2 months, and no one's noticed in, like, the dozens and dozens of Mikons that Nami has on the ship, like, I think that fits. That tracks. It could be buried in the tree. It could be way at the top or way at the bottom, and they never noticed. Okay, and maybe when Vivi rejoins, she's gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, I can't wait to try some of your Mikons again, Nami." Just like it's been so long, and so maybe Nami is like, "Okay, great, let's go over to the tree and let's get some Mikons, and then Sanji can whip us up parfaits or whatever." And Vivi's like, "Oh, that would be heavenly." And so they go over and start picking the fruits, and then Vivi reaches in to pick a Mikon, and she's like, so it's like a snow white Mikon that she picks, and it's like, is this covered in mold? What is this? And then Nami looks at it like, that does not look like a oh my god, that's a devil fruit. And then the Straw Hats would kind of have to all like have a little meeting and just like, okay, meeting everybody, 6 spells, ding, 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 we found a devil fruit. So I'd imagine a scene where all the Straw Hats are in the dining room on the Sunny, and they place the devil fruit like on the table, and they're all like, how did that get there? And then everybody kind of has to sit down and be like, all right, everybody, let's backtrack here. Who are the devil? Did anybody kill a devil fruit user recently? Like, like, no, when did this happen? And then they're looking at it. Maybe they have a copy of the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, actually. Sanji might have one. Sanji read it when he was a kid. They might have a copy. Oh, they're with Vegapunk right now. Vegapunk might be with them when they find it. Vegapunk would know. Vegapunk he's the brain fruit. Oh my god, he's like the encyclopedia. He might be like, ah, yes, I remember this fruit. It was cataloged in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. This is a Logia, in fact. Rather rare Quasar. This is the Snow fruit. Have any of you ever fought someone with the Snow ability? And then immediately, Zoro would be like, yup, actually, I sliced a snow woman in half at Punk Hazard. I don't think I killed her, though. Huh. But, you know, other stuff happened there. So, maybe, you know, like, they'll all put 2 and 2 together and be like, all right, well, I guess Monet's dead. So that's sad, I guess. But, like, here's her fruit. And so Vegapunk would be like, well, I mean, I already ate a Devil Fruit Quasar, so I can't have it. But, I mean, hey, if anybody wants a Logia ability, I mean, that's a pretty powerful power to have. And we're kind of heading to dangerous waters right now. I mean, the more help we could get, right? And so the only contenders for the Devil Fruit would be Zoro, Nami, Sanji, Usopp. Frankie could eat it, but Frankie's already said, like, nah, I don't want a Devil Fruit, you know? It would be kind of funny because Frankie was offered the Mera no Mi at Dressrosa, and he's like, nah, I don't want that, and I can already Spitfire anyway. And so now he's being offered the Snow Fruit. I'm kind of envisioning a scene where they just go through, like, one panel for each Straw Hat. Like, Zoro's like, nah, I don't want it. Nami's like, nah, I'd rather like to swim. Frankie's like, first you offer me fire, now you offer me snow. I don't want either. And then he's like, Usopp is like, well, if anybody, I mean, you know, Usopp I could kind of see. Usopp I could kind of see being like, well, if nobody wants it, I'll take it, you know? Sanji would be like, nah, my ability is like, I literally light my legs on fire. I don't think snow is going to really work with me too well. Although that would be fascinating. Sanji using Ifrit Jambe with the Snow Logia. That would be weird. But I think Sanji would be like, I have enough stuff going on right now with my body. I don't need to add another paradigm to this, okay? And so they're, all right, fair enough. And so you basically just get down to Jinbei or Vivi, essentially. If Vivi was there, you'd have Jinbei or Vivi. And Jinbei would, of course, be like, nah, I mean, devil fruits are interesting, but I am a fish man. I could not give up the ability to swim. That's literally like 80% of my attack power is in the ocean. So I can't give that up. And so it would all be down to Vivi. And Vivi like, well, do you want to eat the fruit? And Vivi would be like, you know what? This will allow me to be on an equal level with the Straw Hats or get stronger, and it will help me figure out what's going on with the world, and I need to be strong. And, you know, I wish I could do it like I could have trained and stuff, but we don't have the luxury of time right now. And so... And then so she eats the fruit, and she gains the power of the snow fruit, becomes a snow woman, okay? And I could see that with Vivi's ability. Also, the fact she has blue hair, so you can kind of picture Vivi with the blue hair and, you know, turning into a snow lady. You know, Vivi's head. Ah! She's a Doulahan. Ah! So, right, yeah, there's that. Now, there are other options on the table here. Like, if you would have Usopp and Frankie and Vegapunk all on the crew, they could make, you know, they could upgrade Vivi's peacock slashers. You know, they could like, oh, we can add like electricity to these things. Usopp has dials, you know, they could like, oh, here's a burn blade, here's a burn bazooka. Give Vivi a burn bazooka, like wiper or whatever. And just like, this will be fun. You know, so there's other things on the table, but like, you got to understand all of those things, like, you know, learning new technology and stuff like that, that's going to be, you know, like a little bit of a learning curve. Now, a Logia would be a learning curve as well, but you would at least have the added advantage of, like, being intangible, okay? So she would still have to learn hockey a little bit, but if she had a Logia and she had decent observation, like, let's say she just knows observation hockey, she has that, at least at a rudimentary level, it'd be like, okay, Logia plus basic observation, that'll get you places, all right? Like, and then you could train and get stronger, too, as we advance, because we're entering the final saga, but it's not like there's going to be, like, one more battle and that's it. So Vivi could have maybe a fight or two to get used to her powers and, you know, could at least further, is like, all right, by the time we get to the final battles in One Piece, she can at least handle herself, okay? But I think the easiest do that would be with Logia rather than just like, you know, because yeah, I mean Vegapunk and Frankie working together could probably make Vivi a freaking mech battle suit. They could make her the Magna Defender, probably just like robotic Vivi, like Iron Vivi ready to fight. They probably could do that, but I like the idea of the Logia just because it's a theory that's been around for so long now, and I love this, and I would love it to happen. And, you know, you can't even say that, like, Oda was like, oh, that happened so long ago. People forgot about that. Dude, we just had a scene in One Piece that might harken back to a moment post-Enies Lobby when Whitebeard was talking to Shanks. He might have been referring to Garling Figarland, you know, like Miss Shanks' dad or something. I mean, so there's stuff that Oda will set up. And also the Gumu Gumu no Mi itself is something Oda established at the beginning of the story, and we just found out stuff about it in Wano. So, you know, don't like Oda forgot or something like that, because he lays stuff for foreshadowing years and years, sometimes decades in advance before he'll actually get the payoff for that, okay? So I think it's still on the table that the whole devil fruit theory on the Thousand Sunny, I think that works, and I would love Vivi to get that power. So yeah. That's the video, though. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and let me know down below how you feel about Vivi rejoining the crew. Have you always considered Vivi a member, or, you know, she won't be a member until she's actually there on the ship sailing with the crew again? That's the only way you can be a true Straw Hat. And let me know about the abilities that Vivi could maybe unlock or gain in order to be on equal level with the rest of the crew. All right. With that being said, we are now going to end out the episode with something that is completely unrelated. Vulture facts. Let's go. Ah! Vulture facts, vulture facts. Everybody loves those vulture facts. Vulture facts, vulture facts. Eating that carrion, it's vulture facts. All right, so today on Vulture Facts, we're going to be talking about the differences between Old World vultures and New World vultures. This is, of course, vultures that are in the New World that evolved in, like, what is now North and South America, and then also the vultures that evolved in Africa, because the continental split, of course, so the Old World and the New World, okay? So this is an example of convergent evolution, where you have similar species that evolved simultaneously to fulfill a particular niche. In the case with vultures, it was to be a scavenger. Like I said, all that rotting carrion on the side of the road, all those dead animals need to be eaten by something, right? And so vultures in both the New World and the Old World filled that niche, and they kind of evolved side by side. However, there was a lot of key differences between them as well. When it comes to the New World vultures, some stuff we've already explained is they have an ability to pee on themselves to lower their overall body heats. This is actually a term called urohydrosis. So I'm sorry, peeing on themselves? No, urohydrosis. Use the scientific term, please. They also lack a voice box, so they will hiss and grunt at you. In fact, here is an audio clip of a baby vulture hissing. So this is the sound that vultures make, that New World vultures make, that lack a voice box. Like, imagine you hear that. Like, that's horrifying, okay? And they also, they do not nest. They don't build nests. They will typically lay their eggs in anything that's stable that, like, already exists. So they'll find, like, like maybe a fallen log that's, like, rotted out a little bit, or maybe an abandoned building or some kind of structure, any kind of, like, a divot in the ground that looks kind of like, all right, this is safe. I'll just lay my eggs there. So they don't do nests. And also, they have relatively weak legs. Weak legs in terms of, like, being, like, sturdy, but really fast because of them. Like, their legs are very thin, okay? So if they need to, they can, like, run super fast across, like, the desert or something. Now, when it comes to Old World vultures, they pretty much have the opposite of a lot of this. They don't do the urohydrosis thing. They don't do the peeing on themselves. They do have voice boxes, and they can make noises, like, you know, caws or, like, bird sounds. They do, you know, have a nest. Here's an example of a vulture, of an Old World vulture having a nest. And they have very strong legs, which doesn't make them super fast runners. They'll have to, like, jump up and down, or like kind of like flap their wings and kind of like fly away that way. But that's kind of like the trade-off there. They can grab and, you know, kind of tear into their prey a little bit better there with that. And it makes sense because living in the Old World in Africa, the carrion would probably be much larger. You know, they're dealing with, like, dead, like, leopards and tigers and maybe even, like, elephants. Not to say they would, like, carry off an elephant, but, you know what I mean? Having stronger legs and talons would be more useful for, like, devouring that type of carrion. Anyway, that was Vulture Fact for today. Differences between Old World and New World. There's more as well, but you can look into that on your own. I think maybe like one or two more of these, and then we'll move on to the letter W. We are almost done with this, so just stay tuned. All right, that'll be Teching signing out. Later, everyone.